All right, guys, welcome back to another Cryptonairz AMA. Very, very excited to be sitting down with the Spear finance team today. We got the head of Spear, we got Tony the Tiger here, we got Polar, who does a lot for the project. He's going to introduce himself, and then I'm with my main man Johnny Fiasco. One of the best dudes I know, greatest researcher we have here at Cryptonairz, and so I'm really thankful to have him on board today for some questions. So, fellas, why don't you go ahead and start? Whether it's a Spear, if you want to start, and we'll go left to right here. Introduce yourselves, who you guys are, and what you do for Spear Finance, please. Maybe and a little bit of background too would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I can start and hand it off to Polar, and then he can hand it off to Deb. So my name's Tony. I guess I'll give a little bit of background for. So on the Spear Finance team, I am responsible for the tokenomics and the financing side of things, as well as I'll be sort of running the investment side of things when we get to that portion of our project as well. My background is I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started, grown, funded, scaled, exited a number of companies. And while this is my first time launching a token, I have consulted on a number of projects in the crypto space. So I really got started in the space about 5 to 7 years ago, depending how you count it. Initially just learning and investing until starting to get involved on the project creation side as a contractor, which is really I started to get involved with the rest of the team that we have on this project. And now we're sort of jumping in full speed on Spear, and really excited to tell you all about it today. So thanks so much for having us on. Polar, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Thanks, Tony. My name's Polar. I'm the operations manager for Spear. My background is in electronics. Worked in the electronics field in the military. From there, I went on to own and operate a variety of different businesses in many different fields. In 2016, that's whenever I got into crypto, and through trading, I was able to go full-time crypto. I kept going down the rabbit hole and eventually got on the project side of crypto, and that's where I live today.
Awesome, man.
Dev, handing it over to you.
Hi there. I'm the dev for the project. I've been involved in algorithmic finance for 30 years. Read the Bitcoin white paper the day it came out. And have very deep technology experience in general.
Oh, I think we might have lost him here. Hold on, we'll get him back in here really quick.
He got his piece out, and that was it.
Yeah, he was like, "Man, I'm just an OG. Peace out, y'all. You don't need me for the rest of this."
Yeah.
Drop.
We'll give him another second to get back on here. Just hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes Discord does that. It's all good. And then we'll cut this too out. No worries. We'll give him like 30 seconds. If not, we'll just get into the thing, and then we can catch back up with who he is and stuff.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
No, it sounds like you guys have a ton of experience, which is what you want to see. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. We really couldn't be happier with our team.
Yeah, while we're waiting, how big is the team right now? Is it, you three plus who else?
Yeah, so Polar, I don't know if you want to go into any extra detail here, but Polar, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So we have us three. We have our web developer. We have our community manager and research and developer, and then we also have someone on the marketing side of things that he helps with a variety of different aspects with Spear, but mainly marketing.
Fantastic. All right.
And then we also work with a few different advisors, and then also we have I think it's up to 7 community mods right now, and they do an awesome job in the community. We're really grateful to have all them.
Yeah, mods are extremely important. I mean, they're the ones interacting with the community mainly, and to have a good team is vital for the growth of a project. Spear, I wanted to give it back to you if there's anything else you wanted to share. I know we got a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background. Was there anything else that you wanted to share before we kind of got into some more of these questions on the project?
Not at all. I mean, I'm here primarily to answer your questions and to give you any insights into our project and the situation with Elephant and all that as I can.
Great. It sounds like you're the man of knowledge, so that's great. So, you know, you guys kind of just said what your project is, right? You guys are you guys decided to fork elephant.money. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you guys decided to pick this project to fork, and kind of, you know, what has come from that fork? I know there's a lot of different contracts involved. How close of a fork is it? What other things have you guys done to kind of, you know, fix it? Maybe just talk a little bit about what Spear is, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess I might start with the very tail end there with just talk a little bit about what Spear is. I'm not sure how many people in the audience are super familiar with us or not, but it might make more sense if I sort of start from the talk, just give everyone a very general understanding of what we're doing, all the ways that our ecosystem sort of works in general, and then we can sort of dive into why we chose Elephant Money, if that works for you, Crypto Sensei.
Please, Tony, rock and roll, man. Hit us with it.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, I'll jump into that. And then I should also mention before I forget, so we only have Dev on for the next 45 minutes or so. So I guess after I give sort of a little background, any sort of development, technical, security related questions, if we could sort of front run those just so we have Dev on to answer those questions, that'd be really ideal. And then when he does have to hop off, Paul and I can stick on here for any additional questions as well.
100%.
So with that being said, I'll jump into it.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, I'll sort of jump into here. So first off, we are a very heavily customized fork of Elephant Money built on the Avalanche network. We're really creating a 10-year financial ecosystem from the ground up that aims to bring financial opportunity to every level of the community, regardless of one's personal risk tolerance. So the pieces that we have pulled together here are a stablecoin that we call GLADIATOR or GLAD, which can be staked for large APR rewards without being exposed to market conditions. And then we also have a rewards token, Spear, which earns passive rewards on every single transaction just by holding, and then can also be used to bond for what we're calling bonded yield assets, which turns your tokens into a yield asset, which will receive rewards at a specific daily amount for the next 10 years, as well as being sellable and transferable on the open market so as not to lock you into your initial investment. We're building a community and a treasury that we can put to work, initially investing in established companies launching Web 3.0 solutions into existing ecosystems. And we also have a hard-coded 10-year end date at the end of which all the treasury funds get sent back to the token holders. So we believe that the tremendous value that comes from the creative visions of our innovations should not be limited to the bankers and the venture capitalists of the world. So we're creating a financial bridge between the users and creators of these groundbreaking technologies, bring the opportunity for those who create, those who use, and those who facilitate to be the ones who benefit the most. So in this way, we can really create a full ecosystem in which the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So I can speak a little bit towards sort of your first question of why Elephant Money. And it's actually pretty simple. So we were actually working on a full ecosystem long before Elephant Money actually came around, and we've been working on this for quite some time now. And just sort of slowly in the background in sort of incognito mode. And when Elephant came around, seeing the reaction that people had to them, and there was a bunch of innovations that they made and things that people really liked, and we thought that it actually worked really well with the ecosystem we had already been developing up until that point. And so from there, we decided to actually to fork them and to build off of what they sort of the basis that they had created. But when we got into there, we noticed a whole bunch of things about their code. And I can actually probably pass it off in general to Polar right now to talk a little bit about what we noticed when we first got in there. And then maybe Polar, if you want to hand it off to Dev after that, and he can get into some of the other bits that we sort of dealt with those challenges. Also, I think we might have lost Dev again.
Yeah, I'm getting him back.
Hopefully,
yes. I've got eyes on him. He's gotten removed a couple times. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, we'll get him back as soon as we can.
Losing the audio and coming back, so hopefully that won't happen again. I just restarted my Discord, so
thank you, man.
Maybe there's some...
Yeah, Polar, did you want to talk a little bit about what Tony was saying?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever we first started looking into Elephant's code, and Dev can touch more on the specifics here, but we noticed some issues with their contracts, some discrepancies, and I reached out to Elephant's team and let them know, because, you know, first and foremost, we were like, they're at risk, basically. They're at risk, and we have to let them know. So I reached out to their team, and the response I got was, it really brushed off the concern. It said, their team member said, why don't you contact Solidity Finance? Or they said, take this to Solidity Finance or Certic. They're the ones that we paid to do our audit, which, you know, they're the two that did the audit, but they aren't responsible for the code. You know, it's up to the team. But anyway, I went over to Solidity Finance and contacted them over some of the issues, and they said that they noted most of them in the audit report. And they said that you know, in the audit report, they noted that you had to have trust in the Elephant Money team for some of these issues. And I think Dev can now go into a little bit more detail about what we found, what we're doing differently than Elephant, and yeah, just how we're going to move forward without having those same issues.
Yeah, great.
And also to add in one more piece before we sort of hand this over to Ded, you know, I'm assuming a lot of people in the audience are aware, but in case anyone's not, Elephant Money has gone through 2 exploits related to the pieces that we had sort of tried to warn them about. I mean, we warned them about a lot more than just the ones that were exploited, but just a little bit more context. So, Dev, if you want to go into detail on sort of like what we saw and how they were exploited and what we're doing about that on our side as well.
Sure. So, look, just some general statements to start with. Smart contracts are just software. They happen to be written in, you know, a different language, typically Solidity. They happen to run on the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, as opposed to, you know, straight on the CPU or a different VM.
Hey guys, Crypto Sensei here. If you like what you're watching on this video, think about signing up for Cryptonairz. We've built out a 37-person team to work on Cryptonairz that provides every kind of info that you want to know. We have a great community of over 2,300 people that also help providing information. You know, if you don't have 12 hours a day to commit to crypto research and knowledge, let us do most of the work for you. That's why we're here. We're one of the very few communities that have a full service security team. Every new project that wants to come work with us to do an AMA, we put them through a very strict process, and you can learn more about that in our community. You know, we have people that understand smart contracts that can find, you know, malicious code or errors. And so, you know, often we're helping these teams kind of fix their projects before they launch. And so that really gives us the power to know which new projects are going to be solid and which ones might not be. And so we provide all of this information and all of this content to our community. We have some of the most amazing members, and we have a really solid team. So if you're interested in maybe joining, come over to cryptonairz.com, sign up today. Look forward to seeing you out there in the Discord and chatting with you and growing with you, and look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
But in the end, smart contracts are just software, and software has you know, many kinds of faults that can exist, and those faults can be introduced through a number of different ways. You know, you have to apply a strong software engineering and development process methodology if what you want to do is to release quality software, and that applies as much to smart contracts, if not more, as it does to software in general. You know, simple bugs, cases where the developer has just made, you know, an error. Typically, those things can be uncovered, you know, through a rigorous testing process and a quality assurance process. You then have, you know, additional classes of problems that can occur, particularly in distributed finance and in smart contracts, because the relatively small software components, you know, are involved in a complex set of interactions in a complex system. Smart contracts, in terms of the total lines of code that exist in them, are really tiny pieces of software relative to, you know, other things. yeah, I've dealt with software systems that do automated trading, that have hundreds of thousands of lines of code. In the case of a smart contract, you're typically talking about 100 to a few hundred lines of code. It's just a completely different class of complexity in terms of just the number of lines of code. Why am I going into all this detail? Well, the first thing that we did was to look at the elephant code. And even though their contracts are small, they weren't readable. The developer had used weird variable names. There was copy pasta all over the place. What I mean by that is there were functions that were copy and pasted with just small things that were changed in one versus the other. It almost seemed to me like someone was trying to make the code actually hard to follow, right? And what purpose would that have? Like, not to be cynical, but what purpose does that have other than to make the general public, unable to understand the code, and to even make the life of an auditor more difficult? Once I untangled all of the code that's in, for example, the elephant contract, which you can go pull from their audit report or from BSC scan or whatever. I was able to reduce the total of lines of code in that contract by, over half. Most of it was just junk. And in doing so, found various issues in terms of how they were tracking certain amounts and saw, some of the problems that existed in the exploits that did eventually occur. So lost my train of thought a little bit here, but let me open any additional questions that you have on that issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So Johnny, you want to? I know you probably have some good questions on the code part of it. So why don't you go ahead and take over, and then I can ask some of the easier questions towards the end here.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to talk to you, Dev. Thanks for coming out. First of all, I want to know this before we get into the conversation. You all are KYC'd by Assured DeFi. Are you, as a dev, also KYC'd, or is it just Polar, Tony, you guys?
I'll leave that to the team.
Yeah, sorry. The entire team is KYC'd by Assured DeFi. Just to be clear about that.
Fantastic.
Perfect. All right. So initially, when you guys were in our onboard process and you sent us the code, obviously Elephant Money did not come through our process, so we'd never looked at the code. And we were, quite frankly, shocked at what you had sent us. I think we had the same reaction as Dev did. In fact, I think the exact line the guy sent me was that a monkey wrote this code. Yeah, it wasn't good. We were extremely dismayed at what was inside the code. When you saw this, what made you want to continue with this particular code? Like, did you feel like it was worth it trying to fix this stuff, or?
The short answer is nothing. Nothing made me want to continue with that code. I think at this point it would be safe to say that Spear Finance is a fork of Elephant in the logical sense, in the spiritual sense, in the conceptual sense, but not in the code sense.
Gotcha.
Look, when you fork a project and what you want to do is to just release it on a new chain, you can just take the code and make the minimum set of changes that are required for it to work on the new chain, to work on Trader Joe versus Pancake Swap or what have you. And those are going to be a minimal set of changes, and then you're going to adopt all of the bugs and problems and whatever else was introduced in the original project. That's not what we did. In fact, there was certainly a reason to do that, because then we could have probably released the project 2 days later after we got the idea of forking it. But the moment I saw what was going on there, we took a completely different approach, which is to step back and try. Look, also this stands to be said. Okay, once you identify these problems and they're exploitable, you know, the fact that we didn't go and actually do the exploit says something about our morality. Okay, let's just put
Absolutely.
it that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the short answer to your question is nothing.
And I would say that that was absolutely a conversation that we had of like, do we even move forward with our code given how bad it is? And I mean, as soon as Dev got a full understanding of that, and he brought it up, and that was a discussion that we had, right? So it's not something that we went into lightly, but we're really happy with how it's ending up, right? And obviously, we've fixed all of those issues that we all saw, right, with their code initially.
So for anyone in our community to understand where we're at with this process, with this particular code, this has been a difficult one. When we first received the code, we had the same reaction that Dev had, which is basically like, this is horrifying. We would never move forward with any project that had that was this poorly coded. However, you guys have sent us a secondary code with a lot of the changes that Dev has made now. So everyone knows it's not done. We cannot do a complete code review and tell you how it ends up because we don't have all the code in its final form yet. He's still working on it. But we were very positively encouraged with some of the changes that you all have made and just your transparency and the work that you're doing. So can you tell us all, we're all aware of the elephant money exploit that occurred, the flash loan exploits. That's probably the thing of major concern to the community. Can you tell us what you had to change so that Spear will not be exploitable in the same way that Elephant was?
Sure. Look, there are things I'm going to get into, and then there's other things I'm not going to get into the same level of detail with, right? Security through obfuscation is a thing. You know, that's not really what we're relying on. I mean, in the end, anybody can go, you know, decompile bytecode and or look at source code and kind of figure out how things flow. But it stands to be said that there's that DeFi in general is going through growing pains, right? And there are certain kinds of problems that are introduced when I mentioned earlier, you know, relatively simple components start to interact with each other in DeFi. You get complex behaviors that maybe no one who introduced the features initially even imagined, you know, could occur. Same way that, you know, in a complex system of, you know, let's say an ant hive, you know, or a beehive or whatever, the individual bees have, you know, simple behaviors. You put them all together and you get emergent properties that aren't easily detected, you know, from the simple rules. You know, it's kind of similar in DeFi. You know, you have contracts that are coded, for example. There's been a lot of theorizing that the key problem in the elephant, you know, attack was that they didn't use, you know, price oracles and all of that. And frankly, we were on an AMA recently where one of their devs, that was their contention. And I, you know, I didn't want to make them look bad, you know, on the call. So I just kind of took the approach of, well, why don't you tell me what you think the real, you know, problem in the elephant exploit was? And they kind of stuck to believing, or they asked the question in a form that you know, indicated they believed that the real problem was you know, where did the elephant contract get its price from? That's not actually what happened in the elephant exploit at all. But let's think about that for a second. Okay, if I write a smart contract and I go and I try and find a price, and I happen to do that by going directly to the pool, and you know, that's the pool that the contract is traded on, I'm going to get an instantaneous price. You know, same thing happens in algorithmic finance in general, right? I have to go get the price from somewhere. I'm going to go get a quote. If I only act on the most recent quote, I have this instantaneous price that may or may not be related to what the actual value of the contract that I'm transferring is, right? It could just have been an instantaneous price hike or instantaneous, you know, price drop based on a large transaction that just occurred. That's why people use moving averages, you know, and other ways of sort of, you know, getting a true reading of a value before they trade on it. Well, in DeFi, the problem is that a lot of these transactions are coded to be, essentially instantaneous in blockchain time because they all happen in the same block. And so you have this problem of compounding transactions, one on top of the other, that may have unexpected, results to the underlying contract and to the end result in the transaction. And that's what these price attacks are that you see happening over and over again in DeFi. Specifically, what happened in the elephant attack was that the attacker purchased coin A, minted coin B using some huge loan that they got, and the minting function in coin B further spiked the price of coin A. And before the transaction was over, they sold their original bag of coin A and extracted value from that AMM pool, which is an automated, pancake swap pool. And then they redeemed the minted coin, and that was that, okay? Nothing to do with a price oracle. That has a lot more to do with the minting function and how that function operates and whether or not it spikes the price of coin A when you mint. And, in DeFi and in the blockchain in general, you're not really running software on a machine where you can have timers and you can kind of set things to occur. Every 10 seconds, I want to go check the price. None of those things exist in Solidity. So you get lazy devs that dump a bunch of, contract value onto the DeFi pools, move the price around in ways that, maybe they don't even think like a trader. Like who in their right mind, if you had a giant bag of something, who in their right mind would go to a pool and dump the entire bag in one shot? Would you ever do that as a trader, right? But that's the kind of code that exists out there in low quality projects, which we are not a low quality project. Okay.
So absolutely. So just there was a lot said there. Just for anyone that's not a technical person or maybe doesn't understand, is it fair to say that well, the attack that happened on Elephant is essentially a flash loan exploit? It's been happening recently. We've also seen it with like Beanstalk. And the mechanism exactly what you just said, right? Minting a certain coin raises the price of the other coin. You buy one coin, mint the other coin, sell the other coin that you just purchased at a much higher rate and remove the liquidity due to faulty code in the minting contract. And it's your contention that that's what occurred in Elephant.
It's not just my contention, it's proved. I mean, you can go.
Perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. And basically, just to assure the audience, you're saying that you're well aware of this and that the minting functions on Spear will work differently, and that particular exploit won't be possible.
Right. That particular exploit won't be possible.
Perfect, man. That's great. I think that will set everyone's mind at ease going forward. This is another question that I had more for Tony and Polar as kind of the founder / team, because it's not necessarily a technical question, but I've been following Elephant, and obviously the project is down about 85% from its high right now. However, it was already down about 35% from its high before the exploit, right? Have you all been following the project, and give us your thoughts on how do you think it would be doing if there hadn't been the exploit? Do you feel like the mechanics of the project have legs? Is this something you're confident in for the 10-year plan that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The short answer is no. So I think they did a lot of great things, right? Like there's a reason why we wanted to start with them as a base to work off of. But we also see a bunch of issues and a bunch of things that we can improve on, which is why I have all the all the changes that we do, right? I mean, if you've read our white paper or anyone out there that sort of looked into all the things that we're doing quite a bit that's very different from where they started. And we think we're all doing it for a very good reason, and it fixes a whole bunch of issues. I mean, I'm happy to go through just like a couple of those differences if that would help as well. But no, I mean, there are some big flaws, and we have not only solved those on the software side, but we've also solved those in sort of like the economic tokenomics side as well as just the general way it's set up. And further than that, just the way that we're trying to communicate with the public and work with the community on this. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways that were really different. So, I mean, if it helps, I can walk through some of those differences.
Walk us through it, man. Yeah, help us better understand, because everyone wants to know. Usually, when you just get a fork, right, it's just a basic fork. So, if you guys are different, we want to hear how you guys are different. That's very important. So, please explain to us how you guys are different. Dev's done a fantastic job. Usually, we don't get the dev on here to really get into things and explain things how he's done. And he's done a fantastic job. So, now it's up to you to tell us what makes you different and why people should be, investing in your project, really.
Absolutely. So let me tell you about some of the biggest pieces that sort of sets us apart first. So one is that we're built on a sustainable model. So we've basically worked an entire investment thesis layer similar to like a decentralized VC firm. That's the basis for providing returns to investors, instead of needing new members to come into the community for old members to make money. So that's the first piece. Next is we have this hard-coded 10-year end date. And to my knowledge, that's never been done once in sort of the DeFi space before, let alone elephant money. And actually including this allows us to do a whole bunch of things. As an example, one of the things that it allows us to do is have sort of a predetermined profit distribution, right? So typically, when a project has a treasury or has a way to make money, there's sort of this there's this understanding that somehow the investors in the project like get a part of that or have some sort of piece in that, but it's never actually discussed how the mechanics of that work. And with us, it's predetermined, right? At the end of that 10 years, the entire treasury goes to all the holders of the Spear token. And there is a set exit, set in stone, sort of worked actually into the contract. So that's a huge piece, and is really only possible because of the 10-year end date. As well as a lot of companies sort of have this infinite time frame. So theoretically, they're saying they go on for an infinite amount of time with these crazy APYs for an infinite amount of time, and they sort of layer together these pieces that really kind of make them impossible. Whereas the 10-year end date has allowed us to look at this big tokenomics and say, okay, well, we want to be able to give out exactly this much every single day for the next 10 years. How are we going to make that possible? But having a specific date that all ends allows us to actually make the whole thing realistic and possible. So the next piece is that we leverage the community to make a profit instead of just to grow the community. So sure, we still have our Alliance program, in which the community is sort of motivated to help grow the community. But further than that, we actually use the community to actually bolster the investments as well. So down the line, we'll be investing in pre-established companies who are launching sort of in the Web3 space. And part of what we can bring to those companies, aside from just the funding, is a community that can help sort of bootstrap and get their initial communities off the ground. And it also provides huge value add to being in our community because we can get you early access in some of those companies as well. We also, sort of speaking of community, we have a DAO at the core of what we're doing because we wholeheartedly believe that the community is a huge piece of this. I mean, let alone doing a project that lasts an infinite amount of time, just doing a project that lasts 10 years is a huge amount of time. And a lot is going to change over the course of 10 years. And we have to be able to be smart enough to know the way we're starting this project is not the way it's going to end, right? We're going to have to be able to listen and to adapt and to address things that come up, whether it's regulations or whatever may change in the future. And having the community is an essential part of that for us. And so that's why we sort of based the whole thing around a DAO. We also are not locking initial investment capital. So with Elephant Money, you sort of bond your tokens, which is sort of a process of burning them, and you can never get those back. With us, we've shifted that slightly. So we're switching bonding into what we're calling bonded yield assets. So we've basically taken this idea of bonding, we've merged those with NFTs only to make them transferable and tradable on the open market. So you're not locked into your initial investment capital, but you are still able to get a predetermined return daily for the 10 years that you have that bonded yield asset for. So those are sort of a couple of like the big items that really set us apart. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of different pieces in our actual tokenomics, but I hope that sort of gives you an idea.
No, that's fantastic, man. That really did help us understand, how you guys are going to be different. I do have some questions after Johnny's done about, what kind of some of the stuff you just went over, but I'll turn it back over to Johnny to continue his questions.
Sure. So just along with the idea of a 10-year hard cap date, that's a really interesting idea, and the idea of transferring the value of the treasury to people at the end of the company. However, a critic might look at it and say, buddy, 10 years in DeFi is an eternity. Like 10 years in DeFi is basically the rest of your life. What would you say to that? Why did you pick 10 years? Why not 2 years, 5 years? Is there a reason, or you just hit us with it? What's your idea there?
Oh, absolutely. I actually really love this question. I do want to take a quick second and just remind you. So we have about 10 minutes left of Dev's time. Do we have any more technical or security questions just while we do have him on, and then I can jump back over to that?
Well, I mean, Johnny, do you have anything?
I actually spoke to him in the DMs. I think he's done a great job of explaining the changes he's made so far. And I just want everyone to understand Dev is still working on the code. We haven't reviewed the end part of it. So we can't give you a thorough code review at this point. It's still a work in progress, and we'll keep everybody updated as Dev continues his excellent work.
Here, yeah, and we thought it was
Perfect.
important to get this conversation out, right? Usually we do want to finish the process of putting a project through and just so we can, speak to them logically about what's going on. But Dev, is there anything maybe that you haven't spoken about that you feel is important that we need to know about the project? Maybe that's probably a better question to ask you. What else do you feel is something that you should share with us that is of value?
Well, it just probably has to do with who I am relative to what kind of experience most devs bring. Because I've been in algorithmic finance as long as I have, when I look at basic functionality in these contracts, I also look at it from the point of view of a trader as well as the point of view of a coder. And I think in my experience, a lot of projects in DeFi don't have that in their dev. It's just a guy who's slinging some code to get what it is that the project wanted in terms of functionality, without a lot of regard to what does that do to the ecosystem. And so I'm thinking about that with every line of code that I write.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. Like I said, usually we get a lot of just basic devs in here that really don't understand. They just slap code together and they just hope it works. You definitely sound like a more technical. It sounds like you have maybe 20, 30 years experience in this. As being some type of software engineer or in design. So I don't have any other questions for you, Dev. Specifically, Johnny, do you have anything else for Dev?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I think people were, they were
Very
worried
much
about the
appreciate
elephant.
the opportunity to speak to you guys, and I'll look forward to interacting with you when the code is done as well.
Thank you, Dev. We appreciate your genius, man.
Thanks, Dev.
Building. When is Tony?
Thanks so much.
When do you think Dev's going to be done with the build? I mean, when do you think pre-sale is going to happen, and then public sale?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've sort of made sure to communicate to and listen to our community on is sort of this timeline here and when we're going to launch. And the resounding sentiment that we've heard over and over and over from our community is that they would all prefer this to be done right rather than to be done fast. And so that's absolutely sort of something that we've had a focus on here. And so we're really taking the time to make sure that it's done right. And what that has sort of meant is that we have not been able to give sort of a release date yet. And it seems like our community has understood and sort of like been behind us making that decision, especially when it's leading to a better product, right? So we don't have a date right now. We will shortly. But again, we don't want to put out a false date and then have to move it back. And so we are being very careful here. As you can tell, Dev has a lot of experience. And so throwing out a date that is going to be inaccurate and then later recalling that date when it's at or past that date, like you typically see in the software world, is not something that dev does, right? Because he does have experience enough to know that that's sort of typically how it goes, and we're not going to do that.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, I'll jump in for a second. I mean, look, the team has been asking me almost every day, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" I mean, I'm saying that in a joking way, but you know, I've been very careful not to give promises until or about things that I have not, you know, fully researched and feel 100% committed to. I can tell you that a lot of progress has been made over the last week or so, and I'm just finishing up some of the final functions that we need. We're then going to take our DApp through a testing phase. We're using all of the available tools that exist in the space, you know, to for example, to fork the mainnet blockchain and run all of our functions, you know, on a forked chain and observe down to the last decimal place that the accounting functions, you know, in the contracts are giving us the right results. And I can give you a little anecdote on that, Johnny, some other time when we have more time. All right.
Absolutely, brother. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And
we're
Sensei,
not
on
gonna...
the
Go ahead,
on the
sorry.
pre-sale part of your question, on the pre-sale part of your question, there will be no pre-sale. This would just be a fair launch, and our reasoning behind that is we don't want people that were able to get in on the pre-sale to just dump as soon as our token is live. So, but yeah, it will be a fair launch.
So real quickly though, are you guys? Is it going to be a stealth launch, or are you guys going to? Because we've seen this before, right? Where they announce the launch, the contract gets leaked pre-launch, and then bots take over, and it's a total collapse and a shit show. So what have you guys put in place to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So first off, we have anti-whale measures as well as a sleuth of anti-bot measures. The anti-bot measures, we are not going to be exposing them just because that would make them slightly more susceptible. But we basically, the short of it is, if you use bot, it's not going to work out well for you, and it's not allowed. And so we do have Sorry?
I said fantastic, man. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in terms of the self launch, so we will be giving the public a launch window. As an example, we might say, hey, it's going to be this evening between this 3 and 4 hour period. And then one of the additional benefits that we've released recently for our whitelist is that they will have a much more specific launch window. That's one of the many benefits, or one of the 4 benefits really that the whitelist will be receiving.
You want to walk us through all the benefits of what that is, and how people still qualify? What do they need to do? Is that being active in your Discord? Is that boosting? What does that look like? Contests?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll walk through the benefits, and then I'll let Polar talk a little bit about how you can still get on the whitelist.
Fantastic.
So there are 4 main benefits, I guess, depending on how you count them. So the main sort of simple one is that if you're on the whitelist, whatever you purchase within the first 24 hours, however many Spear that you purchase in the first 24 hours, we're basically going to take a snapshot. And then randomly, at some point within the next 2 weeks, we will take another snapshot. And as long as, or basically whatever quantity of that initial amount that you still have in your wallet, will be automatically airdropping you an additional 25% of. So just to run through a couple examples of questions that we get sometimes is, well, what if I've sold half of the amount that I purchased, but I still have half? We'll just be dropping you 25% of the half you still have. And we also get, well, what if I've purchased more by that time? No, we'll still be sending you 25% of what you had in the first 24 hours, right?
Got it.
The second benefit is that if you've bonded that Sphere into a bonded yield asset, we'll be airdropping you an additional 35% instead of 25%. Just because, it's totally cool with us if you want to diversify in that way, and we want to make sure that you're properly rewarded for doing that as well. So you won't be negatively impacted by bonding it versus selling it. The third benefit that we sort of talked about is you'll have a much more specific window for launch. And then the fourth benefit, we will be releasing within the first 2 weeks of launch before the first airdrop, but we are not going to say what it is until then.
Cool, man.
But there will be a fourth benefit.
That's kind of a really unique whitelisting strategy. You know, you don't really see anything like this. Usually it's you know, buying tokens pre-sale or buying nodes pre-sale or buying, you know, crap pre-sale. And you know, usually I like how you guys have put in, hey, a snapshot in 24 hours, you wait 2 weeks, another snapshot, and it's either 25, 35% depending on what you guys do. I love what you're doing here, because you're having people that are buying you know, the first day, reasons to keep holding, right? And to, you know, keep the money involved in the project, rather than just trying to, you know, make your 100 or 200% the first day and get out, or whatever they're trying to do. So hats off to you guys on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, we put a lot of thought into thinking through. I mean, there's two things we wanted to accomplish, right? How do we make sure that the whitelist members are properly remunerated for sort of what they did to get on the whitelist? And then two, how do we make sure that we do that without negatively impacting the sustainability of this project? With a 10-year project like this, sustainability always has to be the first thing on our minds. And so with this strategy, we've really been able to accomplish both those things.
I'm thoroughly impressed with the project right now, guys. Thoroughly impressed. Did you want to?
And I can touch on some of.
Please.
Yeah, I'll touch on some of the areas you can currently earn a whitelist. And the first one is going to be for everyone here in the audience right now. So it looks like there's 133 of you here right now. So whoever in this audience does not have a whitelist currently, after this AMA, head on over to Spear's Discord and go on the left-hand column down to giveaways, click on that. And basically, to qualify for that whitelist giveaway, there's going to be 5 spots available. You need it to attend this AMA with Cryptonairz, and head on over to our Discord and click on that. It's like an emoji underneath that giveaway, and that will put you in the running for those 5 whitelist spots.
That's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having us, both of you. And another way that you can currently earn whitelist spot, I see Crypto Dog here in the audience. Shout out to Crypto Dog. He's been a huge supporter from the beginning. He is currently doing a two whitelist giveaway. So that's going to be on Twitter. So check out his Twitter, and there's 2 whitelist spots available there. There's also the Shill Army. So the Shill Army, if you want to be part of the Shill Army and join as a recruit, just go down to join our team in the Spear Finance Discord, and basically you have to prove yourself in the Shill Army. And we've had people come up from the Shill Army as a recruit. Natch, I see her in the audience now. She came up as a recruit in the Shill Army, proved herself, and then she gained herself a gladiator position in the Shill Army. And then from there, she went on as a recruit mod, and then did her week of recruit mod, and now she's a full-time mod. So you know, there's definitely ways to grow within the community, and we definitely reward people and have our eye out for people that are giving extra effort there. And then our final way would be just any specific way that you can help our community. That what can you bring to the community that's special? And I always use this example, and I just saw her in here, but Bologna, she reached out and she did some amazing artwork for us, just beautiful professional artwork. And so we reached out to her for some help with the white paper, and she did an amazing job with the white paper, just designing that and making it look great. So things like that. I mean, we've had people, you know, translate the white paper to Indonesian, Chinese, and then also German. So, you know, things like that will earn you a whitelist as well. But those are some current ways that you can earn whitelist.
Fantastic, man. It's good to know. Anything else that you'd like to hit on this, or can we kind of move on? And I'd like to ask some questions about, you know, what you guys plan on investing in and things like that.
No, please. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So you guys, you know, you guys say you want to invest into different types of Web3 projects. you know, what does that look like? You know, what types of projects are we thinking of investing in? Are we talking blockchains, dexes? Are we talking about, you know, hopefully we're not talking about validator nodes and things like that. Hopefully it's a little bit more in depth. Why don't you guys give us a little bit of background on what you guys have plans to invest in, and who's in that inner circle making those decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll be investing in initially is sort of going to be evolving over time. So initially, we will start by investing in pre-established companies that are successful in their own right, making a profit, conducting business successfully in general, that are looking to launch either sort of a spin-off in the DeFi or Web3 space, or sort of a subsidiary or something like that, right? They have something that is proven to work, and they're looking to launch that in this space as well. And we are starting with those initially, one, because we've been working with a number of companies, prepping them for an investment like this that are looking very promising. And it's a little bit safer, right? Because we're working with pre-established companies. We don't have to worry too much about any rug pulls or anyone just taking the money and running or anything like that, right? There's an actual company with real people and that we can sort of wring the neck of and be there for. But these are companies that, you know, they are successful companies. Their profits have all been earmarked to go, you know, this amount to marketing, this amount to hiring. And, you know, with any company, typically the money that's coming in has been earmarked for something that keeps the company running successfully. And so we can really come in here and provide the capital that they need to not risk their capital to sort of launch this new venture of theirs. While at the same time, since they're not in the crypto space, they're missing a lot of the information and background that they would need to have a successful launch like this. And we can handle that and help them with that as well. On top of that, we're able to bring along with us our community to help sort of get their communities and get their launches bootstrapped and off the ground as well. And then that also in turn helps our... Sorry?
Was that the Alliance program you were speaking about earlier?
No, the Alliance program is a little bit different. So the Alliance program basically is almost like a referral program for the Spear token, right? So basically, if you're an influencer or just someone and you refer people to the token, they basically can put in your wallet as a referral code. And if they do that, 1% of any amount that they trade for a bonded yield asset will get sent to the referrer, and then 1% gets sent to the referee. So that's the Alliance program, which is a little bit different from what we're talking about here.
I appreciate you explaining the differences and what that looks like. Is there anything else maybe that you haven't gone over about maybe the referral program or any other type of the investments that you guys wanted to hit on, or should we move on to the next section?
Real quick, Dev, is this your mark? Do you have to hop off now?
I have 2 or 3 minutes.
Is anything you wanted to say in closing, Dev, then?
No, not really. I just stayed on in case you guys had any final questions. But I'll be leaving in 2 minutes unless you have a final question.
No, Dev. No, we really appreciate your guidance, man. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we know you're a very busy guy, and keep doing what you're doing, man. We really look forward to seeing the final build and what that looks like, and you know, hopefully we're having this conversation in 9 years and 364 days from now, and saying, hey, man, it was a hell of a ride. We made a lot of money, and you made something successful, and it's still here. So that'd be great.
Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So Tony, walk me through who's going to be making the decisions on what to invest in. Is that the team? Or are you guys going to hire a type of board? Or are you guys going hopefully not living up to the community, because the community really never they all want 100 different things. Who's going to be making those decisions, and what's that going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a combination of a couple things. One is it's our decision. Well, it's not our. It's our part of our job is to be sourcing quality companies for investment and going through sort of the entire due diligence process between our team and really bolstering the this sort of committee that is responsible for doing that. The final decision will come down to the community, but it's up to us to sort of pre-package those investments into sort of a digestible way for the community to actually make a very clear-cut decision on, right?
Yeah, so you guys are going to set up a DAO style, but you guys are really going to do the due diligence, not just going to be a anybody can vote what they want to invest in. It's really going to be, you guys are going to really dig down, look at these up and coming companies that you guys think that are going to do special things, and then you're going to say, hey, between A, B, and C, what does the community want to get into? And then is that how it's going to go?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, there's going to be a place where anyone can submit companies or apply if you are a company that you're interested in sort of getting an investment in. But no, I mean, this really gets way more into sort of my technical background or sort of like working history and background in sort of the investment side of things. So no, there's an insane amount of not only due diligence, but really working hand in hand with these potential investees. And especially once an investment has been made, really closely work with and hand-holding them through that process. Again, these are companies that, while they're successful, they've not launched in this space before. And as we all know, this is a very different space to launch in, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be a lot of hand-holding through that entire process. And that's going to be done sort of by our team directly, as well as the committees we put together to really help these new companies as much as possible. And that's part of the value add that we can provide to these companies, right? It's not just money, and you know, it's the know-how, it's the community, it's specific members that we can bring to fill gaps in those companies in terms of what the personnel that they have to be bringing these projects to life well.
And I know you guys said that you were thinking about, you know, doing some investing in some projects that are already kind of in the space already, or that maybe that have already launched. Do you guys have any, you know, hey, this is an example of a project we'd be interested in investing in? Is there any kind of a project out there now that you guys have looked at? You're saying, hey, man, this is kind of what we're thinking of. You know, that way we can at least get some understanding about that.
Yeah, so I would say that the quick answer is no. What we're really excited about is sort of the initial way that we're launching this. One, because it's much safer. Two, we can have amazing returns by investing in sort of these established companies getting pre-minted coins before they've launched, and then using the rest of our capabilities to ensure very successful launches for them. So given sort of the risk and return here, it's sort of a no-brainer, at least of a place for us to start. We will be having to put unused capital to work in the meantime, right? We won't be able to immediately invest the entire treasury into companies, right? I mean, there's gonna take some time to get up and started there. And so there's some things that we can do in the meantime, but the quick answer is no. There's not like a quick company I could point you to as an example. I mean, I'd really love to tell you about some of the companies that we have in mind, but at the same time, I can't do that because I don't want anyone else stealing those investment opportunities before we get up and running either, right?
I totally respect that. I just, you know, I have to ask the question because I'm very interested to know, you know, what your train of thought here is, and I really want to understand it. And so that's the benefit of me being in this chair. I get to ask all these, you know, these questions because at the end of the day, you know, what you guys decide to invest in really can make or break your project, right? We saw in the node space, right, all these new node projects investing in other node projects that had a 4 to 6 week shelf life, and so that in fact killed the project. So I'm just very interested to see what types of things you guys are interested in and what that's going to look like. And how long do you think it'll be before we make your first investment, or as a community make the first investment? Is that within the first week, in the first month? Walk us through that timeline.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we've been prepping a number of companies right now, so that as soon as the treasury and the community and everything else is in place and ready to go, we want to be able to move into sort of the final due diligence and prepping them for a DAO vote and that sort of thing as soon as possible. Really because, you know, idle money sitting around in the treasury is doing nobody any good. I mean, we need to be making a profit here, and part of that is timing. So we'll be looking to do that as soon as possible, and which is why we've been working with a number of companies, prepping them so that as soon as everything's in place and ready to go, we can just move.
Fantastic, man. Before I open up to the audience, because there is, 130 people here, they've had sat through an hour of this, and I'm sure there's some key questions from the community that I'd love to get in here. Is there anything else that we haven't gone over that you feel is important the community knows before we open it up to the audience? And you guys can start raising your hands to get in line here. Is there anything else in the project that, hey man, we should bring this up, or we left this out? Anything like that at all?
No, I think you're doing a really excellent job here, and I'm excited to sort of see what the community is curious to know more about, and we're really happy to jump into anything.
Fantastic, man. Well, let's get Johan. Johan is a member here. He's been here for a while, and he has very good questions. So, Johan, why don't you go ahead and unmute and let us know what you're thinking?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep, unclear.
So I have two questions. I didn't realize that the community gets to vote on the projects. I mean, if they're voting on these projects, I see two problems with that. One, they could possibly be front run depending on what you're invested in. And the second thing is, what's the point of taking a 10% profit fee for the team if the community is the one that's voting on everything?
Yeah. So the community is, so there's a couple pieces there. One is that the investments are being set up in a way that would make them very hard to be front run. I guess theoretically it is possible that the community, one member of the community could compete with us on a personal level, with our treasury on a personal level, and could somehow, I think it would be very difficult for them to make the argument to the potential investee that they bring with them an amount of resources that also be able to commit or to compete with what we could provide with our community and the expertise aside from just the money, right? I think it's easy to compete with us on money, but it's hard to compete with us on the other things that we bring to the table in an investment. And that's one of the reasons why we're such a valuable investment partner for these companies as well. Two, I would say the DAO is making sort of like the intended for the DAO to make sort of final votes on whether or not we'd like to be investing, and everyone agrees. And also like whether this is a project that they want to be supporting as a community, right? Because it's not just the investment. We expect the community to sort of be involved in that to some degree. There's a tremendous amount of work sourcing these companies, digging into these companies, working with these companies before and after an investment that is going to be done by the team and by additional sort of small groups that we put together to do that. And so that's where sort of that 10% is going towards.
Got it. Yeah, I just have a hard time as, I've been in a lot of these various projects, and every time, as Sensei mentioned, every time it's put up to a vote, half the people aren't even doing their research.
Yep.
And frankly, I mean, putting a lot of money in, I'd rather have someone that's this, that specializes in, and this sounds like, you guys are the ones sourcing it. You can figure out and make the decisions for the community and not even bring it up to them and just tell them afterwards. I mean, I know something like Jade Protocol has done that as well, where the community will help source it, but they don't give the vote on, what they're investing in for that. They've hired, people to do that for them that specialize in that.
Yeah. So I totally get that. And that's one of the reasons why our team is going to be putting so much effort into packaging these decisions properly so that they're all digestible and so the community understands what they're getting into. I would also say like the community is a fundamental piece of what we have here. And we really believe that sort of like the collective thought of this entire community is just much more and can provide much more value than any individual person or group. And we've already seen that. I mean, our community has been really amazing and has had some valuable suggestions, which we've taken to heart. A good example is when we released the benefits that the whitelisters would be receiving, we really listened to all the feedback that the community had, and there was a lot of good feedback, and we ended up taking some of that feedback and actually incorporating it. So there's a lot there. I would also say that if the rest of the community is on the same page as you are, and they're like, okay, well, we don't want to be part of this decision. We fully trust you / the team that you've put together. We want to have a vote to stop the community from voting in future votes on this. That's all acceptable, right?
Yeah, and you guys can also make the decision to just pull the trigger yourselves, right? Like if you see an opportunity that you think you know, hey, if we put this out to a vote and it takes, you know, a week, and a lot of people know about it, we're going to lose this opportunity. Like, I'd rather have you guys just say, you know what, let's scoop this thing up, and then tell the community after, like Johan said. So, you know, we'll leave that to you guys to decide how you're going to do that. But don't be shy to pull the trigger on something that you guys, you know, really like. You know, this is your project, this is your baby. You know, and you know, make those hard decisions, and just you know, don't look back, and keep pushing forward. Johan, did you have anything else? Oh, sorry, Tony, did you want to respond?
No. I was just gonna respond to what you said. I mean, I think that what we've seen so far is communities really being misused and not set up for success. And we intend to set the community up for success, and turn this into something that they can be really impactful. Like, not just, you know, giving them a vote just so that we can say we're giving the DAO a vote, but really turning this into something that can add a huge amount of value. So hopefully we're able to show everyone that we can do that, and the community agrees. But I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, thank you for adding that.
Appreciate that, Tony. Thank you, man. Johan, just want to follow up with you, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to get in before I moved on to Mr. Lazy here?
No, I'm just super excited about this product. This is probably one of the top ones I'm looking at recently, and I'm really looking forward to the launch coming up, and really like what the team's had to say. And I think I've listened to now 3 AMAs from them, and just super excited for it. So
Absolutely,
thank you. That's all I had.
All right, Johan. Thank you so much.
Thank
man.
you so much, Johan.
You're always
Appreciate
providing
it.
value.
Thanks,
so
Johan.
thank you, brother. And then if anyone else has a question, please raise your hand. Mr. Lazy, why don't you go ahead and unmute and fire away, please?
All right, hey guys, how are you guys doing? All right, the question I had was, is your team complete at the moment, or are you still hiring people? And is every member of your team known, like their identities or docs, to the person who is in charge?
Yeah, so
to the identities.
Or please go ahead.
I was just going to say yes to the identities. We all know the identities of one another. And is the team complete? I mean, all the time we're always looking for what people can add to the team, different skill sets that are going to be valuable to Spear Finance. So if there's something that you can bring to the table, Mr. Lazy, definitely get a hold of one of us and let us know what that is. And if it's something that we can incorporate or something that brings value to Spear, you know, we can definitely talk further.
I was actually more concerned about security, because I was involved in a project where they hired an outside developer that wasn't fully vetted, and he was able to exploit the contract and negatively impact the price really bad. So I was just wanted to make sure that everyone on the team is like known, and
yeah, I guess the question is the head dev, right, who was just talking to us, who was very impressive in what he was saying. Do you guys know his real name and who he is, and maybe his background?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, aside from just us all knowing each other and having met in real life and everything, we've also worked together for a while now. So, you know, there's a certain amount of confidence and trust that's been built up over time, and that's a huge piece of it. But I agree that, you know, you really have to keep an eye out for that in general with any of these projects, for sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Lazy.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you asking those questions. It doesn't look like, unless there's any shy people that want to raise their hand at the last minute here. Oh yeah, there's always a few shy people when I call that out. So here we'll bring Fancy up. Fancy has good questions. Fancy, go for it, brother.
All right, I'm muting myself. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Fancy.
You can't hear me. You cannot.
Well, if I'm responding to you, I can hear you. But yeah, we can hear you, brother.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you know, I was server muted for a while due to an accident I had, so I'm glad to be here.
Sorry.
Hey,
I play God
probably,
mode.
believe it or not, yeah, right. Probably more of a question for the Cryptonairz team, because you were talking about the code wasn't completely finished yet.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys are going to still make sure is once it's complete, you guys are still going to go over it? Because I didn't quite catch the way that was worded.
So check this out. So we usually don't allow a project in for an AMA unless we have that finished code, because we want to see if there's anything but we felt it was more important to have this conversation with the community here get it out that, hey, we don't quite yet have all the code, but we wanted to have this discussion, right? So we could better understand what's going on behind the scenes, right? Who these people are, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to bring to the table. We felt it was more important to just say, hey, we'll put our process or this one piece out. We'll tell people that, hey, this is what's going on. But we felt it was more important to have this conversation. And after sitting here for an hour and 8 minutes, I think we made the right decision, right? I think that speaking with the team, listening to the dev talk, listening to Tony talk and Polar talk, these guys do have a great synergy. They do have something that they're bringing to the table that is impressive in my mind, right? I'm sitting here looking at projects all day long. Very rarely do you have the developer coming in, explaining things, talking about his thought process and why he's doing this, why he's doing that. I thought that was very impressive. So are we going to look at the code when it's finished? 100%. Will we give you our thoughts and how we feel about it before they launch? 100%. We will 100% do that. But yeah, we just felt it was more important to have this conversation than say, hey, well, tell us when you're done, right? So we made the decision. Fancy. Did you have another question?
Yeah, no, that was probably more it. I just wanted to make sure the code was all read. I know we had somebody else they did a V2 right after.
Yeah.
You guys had already read that, I think, and then so I just was trying to make sure that we are getting a fully read code.
I think we've gotten like 3 to 4 different versions of it, and I've had all I think 3 to 4 code code. I don't want to call them auditors because we're not yet an audit company, but we're heading there. But we do have several people on our team that just all they do is read smart contracts. And our devs. So we've had actually every single one of them look at the code, and as they've made changes and as things have gotten better, the comments on the code have improved a whole lot to now where we're hearing that it looks very impressive, that the person writing the code now actually knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, and actually just speaking with Dev himself there, we got a good understanding of maybe who he is in his background, right? Or his at least education level of talking about, maybe what happened with Elephant Money, what he did to maybe fix the exploit, and things like that. So appreciate you, Fancy. Thank you so much for coming up and answering that question.
No problem. And thanks, Johnny, for making it easy on us and making it simple.
We're trying to do it every day, guys. And keep in mind, we always are looking at this stuff. We will continue to update you, and we'll make sure that this code gets thoroughly viewed once the final form is in.
All right, thanks. I'll let you move me down. Have a good day,
Fancy.
guys.
Appreciate you, brother. All right, the film perspective. What you got?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you, brother.
All right. So first, I want to compliment the team as someone who was part of Elephant and was exploited. Most of us, are very, very nervous about moving on to another protocol that offers the same thing and is a fork and everything like that. And I've listened to, I'd say, about 4 AMAs now, and especially the dev. I feel much more confident about putting my money into the protocol now than when they first came out. One thing I had a question for with Devin, and I saw with Bean as well, especially when you're offering something like a stable farm where people feel like they can park a lot more money into something like that because it's not a volatile space. They feel safer there. One thing that threw me off with Elephant and Bean is there something like a stop measure where if it seems like something is getting drained, kind of like how you would stop trading on a coin, you can stop trading when liquidity is getting pulled to avoid a full, 100% loss or something like that. I had hoped to ask that to the dev, but
I can.
Oh, Johnny, you got something?
Yeah, I can probably speak to that a little bit, man. So what you have to understand is that these flash loan exploits that are taking place, the way it functions is as Dev described. Essentially, minting the stable coin will cause the other price to go up. So they'll buy a huge bag, then mint a bunch of the stable coin, and literally it happens in a millisecond, right? They have a bot which will push through a sale while the value is being pulled from the new upward price action that they just created by minting. So the problem with trying to freeze liquidity or something like that is that it literally happens in a split second. So no, that's not technically possible in any way that and once again, I'm not a dev. I just look at these projects all day. So I can't tell you 100%, but I do not know of a technical way that it is possible to freeze a micro transaction like that. That just happens in a split second. But what it is possible to do is change the way that the mint functions so that minting, you know, if you have a multiple token system like Spear is and like Elephant is, minting one token will not cause a drastic uptick in the price, making it unexploitable. Essentially, it's like an arbitrage, which is where you're buying a token and selling it somewhere else for a higher price in a split second. And that should not technically be possible if what Dev has told us is true as far as what he's worked in. So far from the improvements we've seen in the code, he seems highly capable. So we will continue to monitor that, and we'll get back to you once I have that answer, basically.
Okay, perfect.
All right, Phil, did you have another question for the team, or was that what you wanted to cover?
That was what I wanted to cover because, like I said, especially offering a protocol where you're offering stable farming, people are a lot more likely to put a much larger bag in there because they feel that it's safe. It's a safe place to put your money. So having that stopgap to avoid, you know, a complete drain is very, very, very important, as we all have seen and witnessed within these last couple weeks.
I completely
agree.
agree
Better
with you.
term. Anyone out here using the term stablecoin, just please be aware that the better term for the coin is a pegged coin, right? There's nothing stable about DeFi, guys. Any coin can lose its peg, and it's worth whatever it's worth at that point. So yeah, just the term stablecoin, I agree, is a little deceptive. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Not financial advice, guys.
Never financial advice, guys. All right, Phil, thank you for coming up and asking that question. I'm going to turn it over to DDD as our final question, and we'll let Tony and Polar get on with their days here.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, D.
Hi, how's it going? I just wanted to say the project sounds amazing. I do feel like the other guy too, because after hearing everyone speak and you the team, it gives me a lot more confidence in investing in the project. My question was more towards marketing. How are you guys going towards marketing? Because I know certain projects you don't even hear about them, and they are really good, but you don't even hear about them. So are you guys planning just to like word of mouth, or just expecting like? I was just curious.
What's the campaign looking like? That's a great question, DDD. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll hand this over to Polar in just a second, who can go into some more of the specific pieces. But there's a number of different ways that we're marketing pre-launch and post-launch, and they vary based on if they're before or after. But I would say a bunch of our sort of pre-launch marketing campaigns have been working out fairly well. Obviously, like our Discord has, I don't know, just around 8,000 members on it right now who are all very active, and we're very happy with that number as well. I would say post the affiliate program is actually going to be pretty huge. So it's a pretty huge percent that we're giving 1% to the refer and 1% to the referred. And that's like a pretty big chunk of change, which we think will really help to motivate people to share this with others as well. We're also planning a number of strategic partnerships that we are not releasing yet, but that we feel like will sort of drastically help in the post launch as well. Polar, I'm not sure if there's any specifics you wanted to add to that as well, or just leave it at that.
Yeah, I guess some more specifics to that pre-launch. You know, we have, I think this is our fifth, so we have six AMAs scheduled for pre-launch, and just a ton of influencers that have been reaching out, a ton of people that want to promote the project, that, you know, they're putting their reputation on the line because they see something in the project, and they're coming to us and they want to promote it. So we're getting a lot of influencers like that reaching out as well. So that's definitely a good sign for the project.
Are you guys paying these influencers, or are you guys, are these people doing this for free? Or is it a little bit?
Yeah, I guess a little bit of both there. Sometimes, whitelist giveaway, and they would be included in the whitelist as well.
That's fair.
So yeah, it varies there.
That's fair. D, did that cover your
And also, a
question?
lot of them will be using the. Sorry. Also, a lot of them will be using the Alliance program. I'm assuming once we have launched,
Alliance.
which will be motivational.
Well, how does somebody get registered for that alliance? Can we do that before you guys launch, or is that upon launch? How do we get our referral code to do that?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So that's going to happen, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
So that's going to happen right after.
Go for it.
Okay,
Tony.
I'm going to
You're
go for
good.
it.
Just talk.
So that's going to happen right after we launch. So basically, it's as simple as giving people sort of your Spear wallet address, and then there's a place where when they're purchasing or when they're bonding their Spear, that they can actually put in that Spear wallet address. And so anyone who uses your wallet address is going to get sort of 1% of that bonded amount, and anybody that they're putting down as their referrer is going to get 1% of it as well. So it's fairly simple to do. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Okay.
Great. Appreciate you answering that. D, is your only question about marketing? Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we let the team go for the day?
No, just last thing I guess is me just as a community member and pretty much nothing else. Like if there was a way to get more involved and to help out, we could, like, I'm sure that a lot of the community members would. So if there's anything else like that we could get involved to promote the project, like I wouldn't mind. I would be more than willing.
Yeah,
Other than
head
just
on.
other than just investing, right?
No.
Yeah, definitely. Head on over to the Discord and go to the Join Our Team tab and let us know that you want to be on the Shill Army, and that'll be a great place to start, and we can go from there.
Okay, perfect. I already did that, so perfect. But cool. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Team. Thank you so
We'll
much.
keep our
man.
eye out for you then.
We appreciate
Thanks,
you
Steve.
coming up, man. Tony Polar, man, I'm thoroughly impressed, man. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes. And you guys have laid out which sounds like a very solid team, very solid work ethic and what you guys are trying to accomplish. You guys have been able to answer every single question thoroughly. There's no dead silence. There's no questions about what you guys are trying to build. So I'm looking forward to investing myself. Johnny, did you want to say anything before we close out?
No, excellent job, guys.
Yeah.
To the community out there, I want you guys to understand we're looking out for you, and we will continue to monitor the project as the code is unfinished. But we brought these guys to you because of the excellent work that's been going on so far, and we felt comfortable with letting you all decide what you think of the project. So thanks for showing up, guys, and thanks for doing great work.
Thank you, Johnny.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, real
Tony,
pleasure.
You want to go first? You want to say anything in closing, and then we'll let Polar go. That way, you guys are not talking over each other.
Yeah, I guess I'll let
You're good.
Polar sort of end it off here. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This was a real pleasure. We're really looking forward to getting this thing launched and making a whole bunch of money together. Polar, I'll hand it over to you.
Love it, brother.
Yeah, thank both of you guys. Thanks to both of you guys for bringing us on. As you've mentioned before, this isn't something you typically do for projects, and it means a lot that you think highly of what we're doing, and you brought us on today and took the time out for this AMA. So thanks a lot to everyone.
Thank you guys. Yeah, sometimes you have to, make exceptions, and at least we're letting people know that, hey, this is why we're making the exception, and we're transparent. And that's what we do here. We put projects through a process. We make sure that, we do as much due diligence as we can before we allow them to speak with our community. And I think if more people did as much due diligence as we do, there'd be a lot less, malicious actors out there just scamming people left and right. So thank you guys so much for coming up and spending as much time answering all the questions that our community had. And we wish you the best. We want to see how far you guys can take this. And if in 9 years and 364 days or whatever the time is for you launch, you guys are still around, you guys have made a ton of people a ton of money and yourselves, and you got to change a lot of lives and made the space better. Right. And you guys, I hope to see that happen. I really do from the bottom of my heart. So I appreciate you guys, and nothing here, guys, was financial advice. Just solid team talking about their project and their dreams and what they're trying to bring forward in the DeFi space. So thank you for listening. It's been another Cryptonairz AMA. I hope you have a good day, evening, night, whatever it is where you are from. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks. Hey.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sensei.